And you're listening to News Talk 1340 WJRW. John Gonzalez, MLive.com, the Grand Rapids Press, and the Going Gonzo radio show. Weekdays at 1 o'clock on News Talk 1340 WJRW. Today's show brought to you by Mercantile Bank. Visit mercbank.com to find out how Mercantile Bank can take you and your business to the next level. Mercantile Bank, here to get you there. And I guess it's probably good for me to get the sponsorship in the Going Gonzo show, because with me I have Chuck O'Connor. He's the director of corporate partnerships, and it's important to take care of those partners, isn't it, Chuck?
Well, it sure is. It's a big revenue source for us from year to year, and in fact probably the biggest single revenue source. So that's something we work on throughout the year, and we have a number of major sponsors from around the country that come back from year to year to help us continue this event.
And, of course, the event that we're talking about is the National Cherry Festival here in Traverse City, Michigan. Didn't leave, so I'm still here on a Monday. I was going to take off on Sunday evening, but I figured, you know what, I'm going to stick around and have fun today. Foreigner in concert tonight. And, of course, you're on a stage. It's called the Bay, right? The Bay.
Bayside Music Stage.
Bayside Music Stage. Who sponsors that?
That's Pepsi and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan.
Okay, and how long have they been with you guys?
They've been probably with us 20 years.
I thought so. It sounded like
long time.
A long time partnership with them. And how do these partnerships get started? Is it a matter of like, hey, let's call up Pepsi and let's see if they want to jump on board?
Well, really any number of ways. A lot of times if we can get a local advocate from a company to go to the national guys, to kind of help us introduce the event and the numbers of people that we have. Really our biggest asset is having 500,000 people come to town for a week. I mean, when there's numbers like that, sponsors love that and they want to be in front of that. And Pepsi and music go together pretty darn well.
Yeah.
And Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan's been on that stage probably as long as Pepsi, nearly 20 years.
Well, yeah, they've definitely, you're right, both of them have been great contributors to events around the state of Michigan. And Chuck, but I'm sure they're two sponsors. You probably, have a whole list of them.
Yeah, I'd say any given year we have 80 or so. And one of the reasons for that is we aren't a big metro area like a Chicago or New York or Detroit where you would have headquarters for this sort of a company.
Right.
So we have to make that up with smaller companies that maybe are investing $5,000, $10,000 at a time. Some of them are headquartered in Grand Rapids, like Meyer is a big sponsor, has been for a number of years. And so it kind of combines. And so you get a little bit of logo soup there from time to time, but that's the best way for us to sort of offset a number of our upfront costs to put the event on. And sponsorships are based on return on investment, or now I guess they call it return on objective more often. So it's not a donation sort of deal. These are coming from, this money's coming from marketing, PR, advertising budgets.
Now, you've been doing this for 20-plus years.
Right.
How has it changed in the last, say, 5-10 years?
Well, some of it stayed the same, but the assets or deliverables that a sponsor gets have changed. Just think of what's gone on in social media in the last 5 to 10 years. Well, that wasn't something that I could include in a partnership before because it just didn't exist. So now the buzzword would be activation and leveraging, so we can take social media assets that we develop. For instance, we have over 26,000 Facebook friends. We can leverage messaging from big sponsors like Meyer and Pepsi and Verizon Wireless and DTE Energy, and counter into their messaging and use that for a marketing source for them in a really conducive atmosphere. And
I would imagine they ask you for questions like demographics. Could you have any breakdown? You mentioned 500,000 people over the course of the festival.
Yeah.
What kind of numbers do you have for me, and what kind of other demographics?
We haven't surveyed in the last couple years. It's something we do every few years. We're also careful to say that because the festival is a free event, there can be a lot of duplication in that number. There's not 500,000 uniques down there,
right?
And my sponsors know that. But we see a good cross-section. I had a Verizon Wireless rep I talked to just this morning who said, boy, we really noticed this year you have a lot of out-of-country visitors. We're seeing a lot of people from other countries taking pictures of strange things that Americans probably wouldn't take pictures of. And so if you're a global sort of company like Wireless would be, they care about that.
Yeah.
As opposed to a local company, maybe a shoe store, they care about their town.
Yeah. Well, one thing I noticed too, and maybe this is appealing to the corporate sponsors, I don't know, is the walk just onto the downtown district and all the businesses that are down there. the foot traffic is incredible.
It is, yeah, and that's something that is hard to measure. It's so subjective. The economic impact of our event years ago was pegged at somewhere around $26 million annually, and it's an 8-day event that generates that. So it's got to be a lot higher than that now. And the other thing that's happened is, even though the Cherry Festival is the oldest, sort of the granddaddy of the special events in the region up here, all these other special events have sprung forward, like Michael Moore's Film Festival and Horse Shows by the Bay and the Iceman Cometh Mountain Bike Challenge, niche events, general events. So it's become a destination, sort of a special event destination, and that's become a real engine for downtown.
And I would imagine that the local residents come to rely on the options that are out there for them. I mean, they're engaged in the local community as well, right?
Yeah, it's true. I was talking to a shoe store owner last night at our VIP area, and he really has learned how to stock up for that visitor as opposed to the regular, day-to-day local that might shop in a shoe store. So if they figure out how that client buys ahead of time, they can purchase that way ahead of time and have really good sales through the summer season.
All right, Chuck, a little earlier when I was talking to Doug Stanton there, I mentioned the guy with the hat. What is the story on the hat? It's kind of like the safari thing here going on.
This hat is a safari hat. It's permeable so that the breeze comes through, but it covers my ears, too. I just try to protect myself from the sun, and it became kind of an item after a few years. I've been wearing it for 21 years, and I've been riding the same bicycle around the event for 21 years.
Oh, and it even has a cherry.
It's got a cherry on the back.
Did you have to get that embroidered yourself, or did you do it yourself?
No, it's just a stick-on.
Oh, I don't know if you're into the arts or their type of thing, quilting or whatever. It's cross-stitching.
No, but you can see me coming, right?
Yeah, I know you're on the way. Yeah. Oh, there's Chuck. I guess you've been doing this for 20 plus years. Why do you keep doing it? I guess that's an important question to me because we're all driven by different things, right? Sure. And there has to be a sense that you love this community and love what you do.
Well, Gonzo, I kind of get to be an entrepreneur in a way. I came out of the traditional media scene. I worked for NBC and CBS affiliates and radio before that, always in sales. And so when experiential marketing, which I kind of use as interchangeably with sponsorship, came along and became popular, probably first with the Olympics, I thought, boy, here's an interesting idea. Yeah. So I kind of bit the bullet, took a pay cut, and said, let's get into sponsorship. Well, all of a sudden I'm working with a wonderful small group of people, and then the support crew of about 2,000 volunteers. And it's just a wonderful sort of Cherry Festival family, we call it. So it's always fun to do. And I also like the business model because it's not like anything else. In the special events, in our case, you work 51 weeks for 1 week to happen. Right. It's very unusual.
What words of advice do you have? Because you've been doing this so long because we have listeners in Grand Rapids, and they're dealing with their own events. They're dealing with sponsorships. What's the best way to approach people when you're talking about sponsorship?
Well, the most important thing is to communicate what you can really deliver. Remember, a sponsorship's not a donation. It's an investment, just like buying a print ad or a radio or TV spot. So you really got to come up with tangible things that you can deliver to that client. And then when they're on site, take care of them. When we talk about communicating, you really got to communicate upwards and downwards all through the event because you only got an 8-day window.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
And most special events are like that.
Yeah, they're a finite time, and then it's about maintaining those relationships throughout the year.
No doubt about it. That's what we do in the off season is we keep those relationships fresh. In fact, our attrition rate's really, really low, and I think it's because we stay in touch with those folks. And as their marketing objectives change, we try to change with them.
You want to meet their needs.
That's right.
All right, Chuck O'Connor, the Director of Corporate Partnerships for the National Cherry Festival. Appreciate you being on the Going Gonzo Show, and you got to tell me where you got the hat. I might get one of those myself.
My sons gave it to me.
All right, I'll give them a call. All right, coming up next, we're going to do local news. We're going to do ABC News at the bottom of the hour, and then more on the National Cherry Festival from downtown Traverse City, Michigan. John Gonzalez here, the Going Gonzo Show on News Talk 1340 WJRW.